How's it going, everyone, and welcome to your very first Java tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be covering variables. So variables, like math, are things that you declare that have some specific value, and these values can either be numbers, integers, true, false, just single characters, a really long decimal, whatever. They can be anything that you want. So let's say we want to define an integer, and this integer is a data type. So a data type defines what type of data the variable is. So again, we have integers, strings, and true or false statements or true or false variables are known as Booleans. And if we just have one or just an individual character, then we call that a char. So if we want to define a variable called number, what we're going to do is write the data type. So for an integer, we're going to write int, and let's say number is equal to, and then we define what value it has. So let's say 10, and then we end that with a semicolon. Now, what can we do with this? Well, if we have another variable, we can add those two variables together, subtract them, divide them, do a lot of things. So we can do math operations with them. So let's define int number 2, and then we'll call this number 1 so we don't confuse the two, and then we're going to set that equal to 2. Now, if we want to print this, all we have to write is system.out.println and whatever operation we want. So let's say number 1 plus number 2. And this literally just takes number 1, which is 10, and adds number 2 to it, so 2. And once we print this, we'll get the number 12. We can subtract them, we can divide them, we can do whatever we want with them. So that's an integer. Now let's talk about strings. A string is a data type that has characters in it, or text. So let's say we want the string greeting is equal to hello world. So we could add a plus sign, equal sign, slash, periods, commas, whatever we want. As long as they're surrounded with double quotations, it's good to go. So we want to print this out. So let's say greeting, and whoops, and it says hello world. So that's a string. Now, what if we want to have true or false? So the variable that we define is going to directly equal true or false. So let's say, well, like I mentioned before, this is a Boolean, so we're going to Boolean condition is equal to, let's say, true. And then Boolean condition 2 is equal to false. So if we want to print both of these, okay, that's not Python, condition, and then we're going to print out condition 2. Let's see what it says. So like we defined it, it's going to say true and false. That's all a variable is. It's very simple, very intuitive. It's just like math. It holds some specific value, but you have to remember that you must declare the data type before you write the variable name. And now there are certain restrictions when it comes to writing a variable name. You can't just name it whatever you want. So when you're defining a variable, you cannot use words that are reserved by Java. So these reserved words hold they have some purpose to it. So let's say, for example, we want to make a variable called super. We're not going to be able to do that because super is a reserved word, that's why it's orange, and it has some specific value that's for Java. Just like how you can't name a variable Boolean. You can't name a variable true. Like, these are all reserved words. And so there are certain limitations, but you can get around this by making certain words capital, or just putting underscores, and just making it kind of your own original variable name. So let's say, for example, we have the variable apple pie. So string apple pie is equal to. Now this won't work. Why? Because there's a space in between. To get around this, we could just write an underscore, and that's completely legal. Or just write apple pie with the second word capitalized, but usually people do just write an underscore, and this is good practice. So you must also keep that in mind. So that pretty much covers variables. We went over integers, strings, booleans, and how we can print these variables to the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.